This might be the most important truth you need right now. Stop scrolling, just for a moment. What you're about to hear might be the only truth you need right now. Not tomorrow, not next week. Now, because if you're honest with yourself, you're tired. Aren't you? Tired of pretending you're okay. Tired of chasing people who don't chase you back. Tired of thinking love will fix you. Tired of the silence in your room when the noise of the world fades and you're left with just you. And you don't like being alone with yourself. That's the truth most people won't admit. But I will, because I've been there too. We live in a world that makes loneliness feel like failure. It teaches you that your value depends on how many people like your posts, how many friends you have, or whether you're in a relationship. So you chase connection, even when it's shallow. You'd rather have someone than no one. You tolerate disrespect, confusion, chaos, because you fear the alternative, solitude. But here's the thing, and I need you to really hear this. Being alone isn't a punishment. It's an invitation to meet yourself, to learn the sound of your own mind when it's not being drowned out by the voices of others, to ask questions you've never dared to ask. Who am I when I'm not needed by anyone? What do I actually want, not what they want from me? That's where it starts. That's where real peace begins. And that's what the Stoics knew. They didn't fear being alone, they cultivated it. Because they understood a truth that most of us run from. If you can't stand being with yourself, you'll always depend on someone else to distract you. But when you embrace solitude, when you choose to be still, to listen, to reflect, you become powerful, unshakable. You see, loneliness and solitude are not the same. Loneliness is empty. Solitude is full. Loneliness is a craving. Solitude is a choice. Loneliness is needing others to fill your silence. Solitude is being okay with the silence and even learning to love it. And that shift, that's where freedom lives. Freedom from people-pleasing. Freedom from chasing approval. Freedom from tying your worth to someone else's attention. When you no longer fear being alone, no one can control you, not even your past. So this is your moment of awakening. Not a dramatic explosion, not a motivational hype speech, just a quiet truth landing gently in your soul. If you're tired of feeling lost every time someone leaves, if you're tired of making other people your home, maybe it's time you build a home within yourself. You are not broken because you're alone. You are not incomplete. You are not less. In fact, this season, this space you're in right now, might be the most sacred chapter of your life. The chapter where you learn to stop begging to be seen and start seeing yourself. So don't skip this part of your journey. Don't rush back into the noise. Don't cover this silence with cheap entertainment, another hookup, or another fake friendship. Sit with it. Let it hurt a little. Let it soften you. Let it sharpen you. Because on the other side of that silence is a version of you that doesn't beg for love, but becomes it. And that's where we begin. Not with noise, not with more people, but with you. You choosing yourself for the first time in a long time. And in doing that, you begin to live not just for anyone, but for yourself. Chapter 1. What Stoicism really teaches about being alone. Let's be real. When most people hear the word stoic, they imagine someone cold, emotionless, maybe even distant. But that's not what Stoicism truly is. Not even close. Stoicism isn't about shutting down your feelings. It's about learning how to hold them, without letting them hold you. And when it comes to being alone, Stoicism flips the script, because it doesn't treat solitude like a weakness. It treats it like a forge, a sacred space, a chance to step away from the noise and meet the only person you'll spend your entire life with, yourself. Here's what the Stoics actually believed. You don't need to escape life's hardships. You need to train for them. They called this premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of adversity. And being alone, that's one of the deepest, most personal adversities we all face, but also one of the most important ones we can prepare for. Marcus Aurelius, the emperor who ruled an empire, still wrote to himself every night. Why? Because even in the center of power, he understood the importance of solitude. He said, "Nowhere can a man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." Think about that. He didn't run from solitude. He ran to it. So what does that teach us? It teaches us that solitude isn't just about being alone. It's about coming home. It's where you check in with your values, where you ask yourself, what am I chasing? Is it even mine to chase? Am I living by what I believe, or just copying what I see? The Stoics were warriors of the inner world. They didn't blame others for their pain. They didn't rely on someone else to complete them. They practiced a kind of emotional self-sufficiency that most of us today have forgotten. Epictetus was born a slave. He had nothing. No money, no family, no freedom. But he had his mind, and that's what he trained. He said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." Being alone taught him that no one could take away the inner freedom he built because it wasn't based on anyone else. Seneca, another great Stoic, spoke of friendship and connection, but never dependence. He warned about becoming emotionally enslaved to others, not because love is bad, but because attachment without inner strength makes us fragile. He wrote, "The greatest obstacle to living is expectancy, which hangs upon tomorrow and loses today." Translation: if you keep waiting for someone else to make you feel whole, you'll miss the life that's happening right now. And that brings us to the hard truth. You can't outrun being alone. No matter how many followers you have, how many dates you go on, how busy you keep your schedule, at the end of the day, when the lights go off and the phone's on silent, it's just you. And that's not a curse. It's a chance to grow roots deeper than your fears. So what does Stoicism really teach about being alone? It teaches that solitude isn't suffering, it's sovereignty. It's the space where you build a life that can't be taken away by a breakup, a betrayal, or the silence of others. Solitude sharpens you. It peels away the masks you wear to fit in. It confronts you with your patterns, your wounds, your truths. And instead of distracting yourself, Stoicism invites you to sit with it all, to let it teach you, to let it refine you. But don't get it twisted. Stoicism doesn't say, "Don't feel." It says, "Don't be ruled by what you feel." It trains you to hold heartbreak with grace, to walk through loneliness without collapsing, to live with others out of choice, not desperation. Here's the core message, my friend. Being alone isn't about isolation. It's about reclamation, reclaiming your time, your values, your inner compass. It's where you learn how to walk beside someone without losing yourself in them. So if you're alone right now, you're not broken. You're being built, like steel and fire, like a mountain shaped by centuries of wind. You're not falling apart. You're being refined. Let solitude do its work. Let it make you quieter, wiser, calmer, more certain of who you are and who you're not. Because when you learn to love your own company, when you can sit in silence and not shrink from it, that's not loneliness. That's freedom. Chapter 2. The Illusion of Connection. Why depending on others is dangerous. Let's tell the truth. In a world that's more connected than ever, we've never felt more alone. We scroll, we like, we reply with emojis. But when the storm hits, how many of those connections actually stand with us? That's the illusion of connection. It feels real, but it's often just noise. And the Stoics warned us about this over 2,000 years ago. Not with smartphones, but with the same human tendency to rely on others for our peace, to depend on people for our worth, to outsource our inner strength to relationships that can vanish overnight. Here's the hard lesson. The more you depend on others, the more power you give away. Not just emotional power, but existential power. You start believing your happiness comes from being liked. Your peace comes from being accepted. Your identity comes from being wanted. But the Stoics, they saw through that trap. They didn't say, "Don't connect." They said, "Don't depend." There's a difference. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "It's in your power to retire into yourself whenever you choose." That's not isolation, that's self-command. He reminds us that we always have access to something deeper, something unshakable, if we stop chasing validation from others. Let's pause here. Ask yourself, how much of your day is spent worrying what others think? How much energy is spent curating your image? not for yourself, but for approval. How much silence have you sacrificed just to avoid the discomfort of not being seen? And what happens when that connection fades? When the person stops texting back? When the applause dies down? When you walk into a room and nobody notices? If your self-worth was tied to those things, you fall. You feel invisible. You feel like you don't matter. This is why dependence is dangerous, because it makes your peace conditional. Your confidence becomes fragile. Your sense of identity becomes a mirror. And if no one's looking, you feel like you disappear. Stoicism teaches you to become whole without needing a second half, to build an inner fortress so strong, not even loneliness can break it. Because when your sense of self is rooted in what others give you, it can be taken away. But when it's rooted in who you are, that's freedom. Let me give it to you straight. Not everyone who says they care will show up when it matters. Not every hand you hold is holding you back. And not every connection is built on something real. Some are just distractions dressed up as relationships. The Stoics understood that life is uncertain. People change. Circumstances shift. Even those who love us deeply can leave, by choice or by fate. So if your identity is built on them, what happens to you when they're gone? That's not a cynical way to live. It's a prepared way to live. It's not about shutting your heart down. It's about anchoring it. So even when the winds of life come crashing in, you stay standing. Dependency feels safe at first. It feels warm. It feels comforting to lean. But over time, it becomes a crutch, and then a cage. You forget how to walk on your own. You forget that you have a spine, a will, a voice. You forget that you are enough. Not because someone told you so, but because you decided you are. So what's the Stoic solution? Build connection, but don't cling to it. Love people deeply, but don't lose yourself in them. Show up fully, but remain whole without needing them to fill in your gaps. True strength isn't about being cold. It's about being complete. It's knowing that relationships are beautiful additions, not foundations. It's the ability to give love freely, not because you need something back, but because you're already full. And here's what most people miss. When you stop depending, that's when real connection begins. Because now, you're not coming from a place of fear. You're not grasping. You're not performing. You're simply showing up as yourself. Whole, honest, grounded. That's the kind of presence that changes lives. And that's the kind of peace no one can take from you. Chapter 3. Self-sufficiency is strength, the core of a Stoic life. What if I told you this? You were never meant to be rescued. Not by a lover. Not by a friend. Not even by the world. The truth. You were meant to become your own foundation. And that's the essence of Stoicism. To build a life that stands firm, even if no one else stands with you. Self-sufficiency isn't selfish. It's sacred. It's the quiet strength that says, I can walk this road alone if I have to, and I'll still be whole. It's not about isolation. It's about integrity, being undivided inside yourself. Epictetus put it simply, no man is free who is not master of himself. Think about that. Freedom isn't out there. It's not in having everything you want. It's in needing less, depending on less, standing firmly on your own 2 feet, no matter what the world throws at you. But here's what culture won't tell you. You've been conditioned to believe strength comes from how much you can control. Your job, your body, your relationships. But Stoicism flips that. It says true power comes from how little control you need. When you stop trying to bend the world to fit your desires. When you stop needing people to act a certain way just to feel okay. That's when you become dangerous. Dangerously free. Self-sufficiency means you've learned how to feed your soul from within. Not waiting for praise. Not hoping someone fills the silence. You face your fears. You sit with your pain. You turn discomfort into discipline. And in doing so, you become unshakable. Let's be clear. Self-sufficiency isn't coldness. It doesn't mean you push people away. It means you don't lean on them to the point where you forget your own spine. You can love. You can connect. But you don't collapse. Imagine this. A man sitting in silence. No phone. No noise. No audience. Just his breath. His thoughts. His presence. And he's at peace. That's not weakness. That's not loneliness. That's mastery. Most people today don't know how to be alone. They fill their lives with distractions because the silence terrifies them, because deep down they know if all the noise stopped, they'd have to face who they've become. And sometimes that's not someone they're proud of. But the Stoic, he leans into the silence. He welcomes it like an old friend, because he knows that's where truth lives. That's where resilience is forged. Self-sufficiency is a quiet revolution. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't seek applause. It just walks into the storm and doesn't flinch. You don't need to prove yourself. You don't need 100 people to believe in you. You just need to believe in you. And you build that belief every time you show up, especially when no one's watching. Here's what Stoicism trains you to do. Own your reactions. Control what you can. Accept what you can't. And release your grip on the rest. That's not giving up. That's letting go of what was never yours to hold. Seneca wrote, "The greatest wealth is a poverty of desires." When you stop craving so much from outside yourself, you gain back your soul. You become rich in clarity, wealthy in presence, strong in your stillness. So ask yourself this: are you building a life that can stand without applause? Can you sit with your thoughts and not run? Can you be your own sanctuary when the world gets loud? Because if you can, no one can take that from you. Self-sufficiency is strength, yes, but more than that, it's peace. Not a peace that's soft or passive, but a peace that's earned. A peace that walks into chaos and stays calm. A peace that doesn't shake when the world shifts. That's the Stoic path. That's the kind of person you were born to become. And when you do, you'll realize you never needed rescuing. You just needed to remember your own strength. Chapter 4. The Inner Fortress. How to build a mind that stands alone. You can't control the world, but you can control your mind. And if you can do that, if you can truly master what happens between your ears, there is nothing this world can throw at you that you cannot face. This is the heart of Stoicism. And this is where your freedom lives, in the fortress of your own mind. The Stoics didn't just talk about self-discipline. They trained for it. Every single day. They understood something most of us ignore. The external world is unpredictable, often cruel, sometimes beautiful, but always out of your hands. So they turned inward, and they built something unshakable. Imagine your mind as a fortress. Thick walls, solid gates, not built to keep the world out entirely, but to keep your peace in, to filter what gets in and what gets to you. This isn't escapism. This is preparation. You train your mind like a warrior trains his body. You don't wait for the battle to begin. You start now, in small moments. When someone cuts you off in traffic, when a friend disappoints you, when the plan doesn't go your way. These are your practice rounds. This is where the fortress is built, brick by brick, thought by thought, reaction by reaction. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." But here's the problem. Most people live in reverse. They try to control the outside, their job, their reputation, their relationships, and ignore the chaos inside. And then they wonder why they feel so powerless. But the Stoic path, it starts within. Always, you build strength from the inside out. Not by pretending pain doesn't exist, but by mastering how you respond to it. Because response is everything. You can't stop the storm, but you can become the calm inside it. That's what the inner fortress is. It's not the absence of emotion. It's the ability to hold emotion without drowning in it. Anger may knock. Fear may whisper. Doubt may scream. But inside your walls, you hold your ground. You don't deny the noise. You just don't answer to it. So how do you build this kind of mind? You practice mental discipline. Daily. Quietly. Relentlessly. You watch your thoughts. Not every thought deserves your belief. Just because it shows up doesn't mean it's true. Learn to observe without reacting. You question your emotions. Not suppress them, but examine them. What triggered this? Is this useful? Does this emotion help me live better or worse? You embrace solitude. Time alone isn't a punishment. It's training. It's the weight room of the soul. Learn to sit with yourself. and you'll never fear being alone again. You rehearse adversity. This is what Seneca called premeditatio malorum, premeditation of evils. Picture things going wrong, not to become paranoid, but to be prepared, so that when life hits, you don't break, you bend. Building a strong mind takes time. You won't do it in a day, but every day you stay aware, every time you choose response over reaction, you're reinforcing the walls of that inner fortress. But be warned, this kind of strength is rare. Most people chase comfort. They run from discomfort. They avoid silence. They crave distraction. They outsource their self-worth. But not you. You're here because something inside you knows. There's more to life than just getting by. There's something deeper than likes, follows, or approval. There's a freedom that can't be bought, only earned. And it's earned inside your own mind. This is what makes you different. You're not trying to escape pain. You're trying to understand it, to face it, to grow from it. The inner fortress isn't a place you run to. It's a place you build. And once it's there, no one can take it from you. Not the world, not failure, not even time. You become your own shelter, your own guardian, your own peace. And in a world that's constantly trying to shake you, that is the ultimate power. Chapter 5. The joy of missing out, freedom from the noise. Let them go. Let the noise pass you by. Not every invitation is meant for you. Not every trend is worth chasing. Not every voice deserves space in your mind. And that's not isolation. That's freedom. We live in a world obsessed with being in the loop, in the group chat, in the crowd, always plugged in, always online, always connected. But at what cost? The Stoics understood something modern life forgot. You don't need more to feel whole. You don't need everyone's attention to matter. You don't need to say yes to everything to prove you're living. In fact, the more you say yes to everything, the more you say no to yourself. JOMO, the joy of missing out, is not about withdrawal. It's about choosing wisely. Choosing what to give your energy to. Choosing what truly adds to your peace, and what just steals it. Because let's be honest, a lot of what we chase is noise. Loud, flashy, addictive, but hollow. You scroll for an hour and feel emptier than when you started. You go to the party, laugh for a bit, and wonder why it all felt so shallow. The Stoic approach is different. It says, cut through the noise. Ask yourself, what truly matters? What brings stillness? What brings clarity? The more you miss out on what doesn't matter, the more space you create for what does. Still mornings, deep conversations, time alone with your thoughts, uninterrupted. Peace that isn't borrowed from someone else's opinion. That's real wealth. You don't have to keep up. That pressure to always be available, always online, always doing, it's not real. It's just noise. And you have the right to turn the volume down. JOMO is about reclaiming your time. Your calendar doesn't need to be full to prove you're valuable. Your phone doesn't need constant pings to prove you're loved. In fact, the people who really value you, they won't need you to show up to everything. They'll understand when you choose your peace over their plans. Because that's what mature connection looks like. Respecting space, honoring solitude. And when you step back, something amazing happens. You start hearing your own voice again. The one that got drowned out by everyone else's expectations. The one that says, this is what I really need. This is what I really believe. This is who I really am. You begin to notice the beauty in simple things. A walk with no destination. A sunset you don't post. A book you read with no intention to quote. Moments that don't need to be shared because they're already enough. Seneca wrote, "It is not that we have short time to live, but that we waste much of it." And how much time have we wasted keeping up? Fearing we're missing something. Chasing people we don't truly admire. Filling our days with things that drain us. But when you let go of that, when you give yourself permission to miss out, you find a peace that can't be bought. You begin to enjoy your own company. You realize silence isn't empty. It's full of answers. Here's the truth. The less you chase, the more you attract. Not because you're trying to impress anyone, but because people are drawn to peace. They sense when someone doesn't need the crowd. And that kind of presence, that's magnetic. So practice saying no. without guilt. Turn off the noise, without explanation. Sit still, without needing a reason, because the joy of missing out is actually the joy of tuning in. Tuning into your breath, your values, your priorities, your purpose. JOMO is not a trend. It's a return to yourself. And once you've tasted it, once you've lived a day undistracted, unbothered, unapologetically you'll never want to go back. Let them scroll. Let them chase. Let them fill the silence with noise. You've found peace in the pause, strength in the stillness, freedom in what you've chosen not to do. And that's a life worth living. Chapter 6. Daily Practices. How to embrace solitude like a Stoic. Solitude isn't loneliness. It's space. Space to become. We've been conditioned to fill every silence with noise, with people, with distractions. But the Stoics knew the truth. The most powerful transformation happens when you're alone. It's not about cutting the world off. It's about coming back to yourself. And to do that, you don't need a monastery. You need practice, daily honest, grounding practice. Here are Stoic-inspired habits you can carry into your everyday. Not for escape, but for presence. 1. Start the day in stillness. Before you check your phone, before the world starts asking for your attention, give that attention to yourself. Marcus Aurelius began each morning with reflection. You can too. Sit in silence. Take 5 minutes. Breathe deeply. Ask yourself, what kind of person do I want to be today? Not what you want to do, but who you want to be. That one question can anchor your entire day. 2. Journal with purpose. Stoic journaling isn't about writing a novel. It's about sharpening your inner lens. Write about what challenged you. Write about where you lost your temper or your patience. Write about what mattered and what didn't. Be brutally honest. This is a mirror, not a highlight reel. And then ask, how could I have responded with more wisdom? That question alone can shift your entire mindset. 3. Walk alone, without your phone. Take walks without music, without podcasts, without distraction. Walk slowly. Feel your feet hit the ground. Let your mind wander and watch what it shows you. The Stoics believed in observing nature as a form of reflection. They watched the trees bend without breaking. They saw the sky change without resistance. You can do the same. Let nature reset your nervous system. Let stillness remind you you are a part of something greater. 4. Practice voluntary discomfort. Comfort makes the mind soft. Strength comes from choosing discomfort on purpose. Take cold showers. Fast for a few hours. Sleep on the floor. Say no to what you crave. These aren't punishments. They're reminders that you're capable, that your peace doesn't depend on luxury, and that solitude is not emptiness, it's training. 5. Reflect at night, not just on what you did, but on who you were. Seneca ended each day by asking, where did I fall short? Where did I grow? You can do the same. Don't just scroll yourself to sleep. Sit in the dark, even for 5 minutes, and review your choices. Were you reactive? Were you grounded? Did you live according to your values? Or just your emotions? No judgment, only clarity. Clarity leads to correction. Correction leads to character. 6. Guard your inputs. Solitude doesn't just mean physical space. It also means mental space. Stop inviting chaos into your mind. Be mindful of what you watch, what you read, who you follow. Seneca said, associate with people who will make you better. That includes what you consume. If your peace costs less attention to the world, pay it. You don't owe your energy to every headline. Your inner world is sacred, protected. 7. Speak less. Listen more. In solitude, we learn the power of silence. And in that silence, we discover the difference between noise and wisdom. Speak only when your words are better than quiet. And when you do speak, let it be thoughtful, not just reaction. This kind of restraint isn't weakness, it's mastery. 8. End the day with gratitude for solitude. Not everyone gets the chance to be alone. Some are trapped in constant noise. Some are surrounded but still lost. If you have even a moment to be with yourself, cherish it. Be grateful for the space. Be grateful for the stillness. Be grateful for the chance to become. In solitude, you don't lose the world. You reclaim yourself. You remember who you are when no one is watching, when no one is clapping, when no one is asking anything from you. That version of you, unfiltered, unafraid, and unshaken, is the one you've been searching for, and he was always there, waiting in the quiet. Chapter 7. Final message. Freedom begins where fear ends. Fear is the first chain. Break it, and you begin to live. Most people think freedom is about choices, but before you can choose freely, you have to see clearly. And fear clouds everything. We fear being alone. We fear missing out. We fear not being enough. And that fear keeps us tied to lives that aren't truly ours. The Stoics taught us something simple and powerful. Fear is not an external enemy. It lives inside our own minds. And the only way to be free is to face it. Ask yourself honestly, what are you still afraid of? Being left out? Not being loved? Not being understood? These fears, they're not shameful. They're human, but they're also illusions. Illusions that lose their power the moment you stop running from them. Epictetus said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." How much of your life have you lived afraid of something that never even happened? How many dreams have you shelved? How many truths have you swallowed? Just because of what might go wrong. But here's the truth. Most of the pain you're afraid of, you've already survived worse, and you're still here. Freedom isn't comfort. It's courage. The courage to stand alone. The courage to speak your truth. The courage to let people go when they no longer align with your path. Not in bitterness, but in peace. You can't control who stays. You can't control what happens. But you can control your response. And that's where power lives. That's where you begin. You start building your freedom when you stop begging for validation. When you stop adjusting yourself just to fit in. When you stop seeking happiness from people who are still trying to find their own. Because here's the hard truth. No one is coming to save you. And that's not tragic, it's liberating. It means your life is yours again. You don't owe the world a version of yourself that pleases everyone. You owe yourself truth. And truth begins when fear ends. The Stoic path isn't about emotionless living. It's about fearless living. It's about facing discomfort and choosing discipline anyway. It's about looking your fears in the face and saying, "You don't control me anymore." So take a breath. Feel the weight you've been carrying. The fear of rejection. The fear of being misunderstood. The fear of failure. And now let it go. Let it go like old armor that's grown too heavy, because you don't need it anymore. What you need now is clarity. What you need is inner strength. What you need is freedom. And freedom doesn't come wrapped in applause. It comes wrapped in silence. In the quiet confidence of someone who has nothing to prove. In the stillness of a soul that knows, I am enough, as I am, alone or not. So this is your call. To stop living in reaction. To stop waiting for approval. To stop fearing the unknown. And to start walking, not away from others, but back toward yourself. Freedom begins where fear ends, and your freedom begins now. Let's take a moment to breathe and remember what this journey was all about. We began with the truth most people avoid, that solitude isn't a punishment, it's a path to power. We uncovered what Stoicism really teaches about being alone, not just surviving solitude, but embracing it as a gift. We questioned the illusion of connection, the danger of needing others to feel whole. Then we explored self-sufficiency, the kind of strength that doesn't shout, but simply stands. We built the inner fortress, that quiet, resilient mind that doesn't crumble when the world shifts. We talked about the joy of missing out, learning to feel free in a world obsessed with noise. We walked through daily practices, small, steady steps that help you not just live alone, but thrive in it. And finally, we reminded ourselves, freedom begins where fear ends. Now, if this message resonated with you, if you're ready to live deeper, stronger, and more aligned with your inner truth, subscribe to the Stoic Philosophy. This is more than a channel. It's a path, and we walk it together. One principle, one lesson, one quiet moment at a time. Stay grounded, stay true, and above all, stay free.